Hello, fellow traders. 'Tis I, the Rumpled One. It's Sunday, July the 14th. The year's 2019. Let's talk trading, weekly open and gap. But before we dive into it, you probably was wondering why wasn't there a weekly wrap-up video on Friday? Well, I had to leave out early because if you're a subscriber, you probably saw I put up a couple of videos of the two Miatas that I got. I had to go pick one up on Friday, and one was delivered. So those of you who've known me through the years know I love Miatas. So I picked up Miatas number 4 and 5 on Friday. So anyway, trading weekly open and gap. Well, we're about halfway through the month. Well, let's see, 10 trading days down and 13 to go. So, in each one of those days, each one of those trades, money and risk management, definitely use them. And we start the week off, all the gaps filled. And just so you know, if you missed last week, all the gaps filled last week too. Well, it looks like there was a small gap up. It came down and filled. And now you can see we are in the upper wick zone of the previous week's candle. On the daily, you see we came down, slightly exited and broke last week's low, reversed, and now we're heading towards that midpoint for the year, for the month. We are down. We're down 114 pips for the month, but we've got a green week happening at the moment. Notice this was the opening day's range for the month here. We almost got back inside, but not quite. So it looks like we might make a second attempt. We're above the June open, but below the July open still. That's why the month is red. Once again, we're out of the June's opening range here, but we're below July's, as we saw in the previous chart or a couple charts ago. You might wonder why it seems like a repeat, but you see we've got all 12 months of the year here as opposed to the other one. We're just looking at just a couple. Okay, inside bar traders, this looks interesting. So we've had an inside bar here on the daily 7 days ago, and we're back inside. Looks like we can maybe escape again. But you notice on the weekly, we can switch over. You can see the week was an inside bar. It broke to the downside once. Maybe now it can break out to the upside. We'll have to see what happens. We've only got one pair over 100 at this point in time. We're about, what, 6 hours into the trading day. Not too much has happened. Though the New Zealand pairs seem like they have some kind of action happening here. The euro, the pound, New Zealand, the new beast, as I like to call it. Except the Aussie New Zealand, not much of a range. And you see on the holo, we've already had a nice higher open here, or highest open, lowest open, or HOLO, holo. So it looks like somebody picked up at least 5 pips or so on that trade. We took out the pivot. You can see right here already. Buy zone had the pivot above. So long trigger right here. Last hour. Trigger long. Good for about 10 pips or more. Going with the bias here of the trading the pivot. Because you see right here that tiny gap. It filled, so once it fills, the gap trade is over, and then you can just trade using the pivot as the bias. Not enough range for the rat. You can see here we almost hit the weekly pivot. Monthly pivot, we've hit it before, so that's already been taken out, but we almost hit that weekly pivot point. In fact, we only missed it by 4 points. 795 is the pivot, 791. But it looks like price wants to go up. As you can see right here, it's the weekly pivots, but we usually look at the daily pivots here, and let's see what happened. You can see we took out some pivots. There was a missed pivot here, it got taken out. So for May, we still have 2 missed pivots. April 1 this year, and July, we still have a missed pivot here at 122.68, which is this pivot right here. The price action, once again, price usually likes to open in one area and then at least try the other, but in this case it didn't. And in this case it didn't. But now you see we have an open here and a break to the upside. 3 ball at the bottom, long at the line, 10, 20 pips. Wick zone, daily wick zone, you can see price came in and exited. You see price dipped in here and exited. Price came in, exited. Price exited again here. You know, it's funny because, well, I should say I find it funny. You know, I get these guys sending me their stuff sometimes on a daily basis about this webinar, that webinar, this robot, that robot, this system, that system. They just keep changing and changing. And then these guys band together and they put on these, you know, online trainings, and they pat each other on the back. I just find it amusing. I guess you know, I guess I'm just not one of the group. For some reason, so many of these guys, they fear me, and I don't know why. I guess because I think differently, I talk differently, and I don't buy into all the stuff that, you know, they promote. So I guess that's why I get shut out and not invited to those events. Okay, and you know, one of my favorite trading screens here, just using the horizontal lines. And you can see there was a trigger there or trigger there, probably a stop out if you were trading it, or you would have just scratched a trade here. And then you see crossing the previous week's open, a nice move to the upside. As you can see, we had some buying take place right here, moving up. Yeah, let's see, it's 8 o'clock my time on a Sunday. That's some pretty good action. Okay, on the Einstein line, you can see a little trade there. Right here, that was a scratch. Another trade to the upside. And people like to ask, well, how do you know to sit in a trade or what? It's like you don't. And that's why you have an exit playbook. I mean, if price is moving slow and, it's grinding out the pips and then it stalls, maybe like here, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 red candles in a row. And if you got in here and it comes back here, then you just got to scratch that trade. I mean, how many reds in a row you think you're going to get? I mean, here you got a bunch of, and these are 1 minute candles, so you can stack them up, but you just really don't get that many in a row before you get a reversal. So in this case, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You'd be looking for a buzzard reversal after 3 or more. So you might just want to sit that trade out. So, that's when you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together for yourself. Okay. Once again, looking at highs and lows, how many have not been crisscrossed to see which way price is moving. So as you can see here, between 122.22 and 121.31 on the daily, you can see we're just pretty much staying in this range here. The opens, the Tokyo and Australian Open. Okay, range, once again, it's only 30 pips. But you see, we actually hit the ATR, the lower minimum ATR 8 plus, or half of it, the open plus half of the ATR 8. Excuse me. So right here, if you want long, this is a nice spot to take off some of the profit, half of the ATR. So you might want to scale out of the trade, take some profit, or just close a trade and get on with your Sunday evening. Once again, showing the buy zone for the week. Starting out, simple trade. Okay, fellow traders, if you haven't, come down here and hit the subscribe button, click the bell. That way you'll know when I put out a new trading video. This week's going to be kind of an interesting week for me. I'm going to do my best to put out a trading video on schedule like I have before, but it's going to be tough. But I will do the best that I can. And as you're trading this week, as always, you must always remember and never forget, it's not what you trade, it's how you trade it. So get out there and drain the banks.